Okay, I'd like to call the meeting of the Golf Committee to order, and I'm going to do a roll call to see if we have a quorum. Steve Booker.
Here.
David Hunter.
Here.
Steve Stenzel.
Yo.
Okay. Jeff Taylor.
Here.
Margie Zinner.
Here.
Pat Kenovan.
Here.
Patty Street.
Here.
Thank you, Patty. Tom Wogemuth. I thought I heard Tom's voice earlier. He may be on mute.
Present.
All right.
Okay, thank you. We do have a quorum with all of our members, and just one word. I mean, conference calls used to be part of my corporate life, which I thought I had left behind, but just a couple etiquette rules. The speaker, who was ever speaking, they'll ask for questions. So if you'd wait till they ask for questions before you ask a question, that'd be great. Second thing is, obviously, put your phone on mute if you're not talking. And third is, when you do start talking, just tell us who is talking so that Karen can keep the comments straight. Okay? And Karen, I will turn it back over to who's ever going to start off.
I'm just going to interject who's here in the room so everybody knows. We have Pete Finelli, the CFO. We have Pat O'Hara, who you all know, of course. Bill Schwind. Martin is here doing taping. And we have Todd Patty, Katie O'Grady, and myself. So what I'll do is turn it over to Bill. Would you like to kick it off? So we're going into new business agenda item 2. Thank you.
Director Hurley and members of the Golf Committee, hello, and thank you for being here today. Item 2, as far as new business goes, Rec Center budget review along with golf fees. Obviously, Pat and Todd and Pete are in the room with me today to kind of discuss this, and hopefully all of you have had the opportunity.
Recording is on.
Hopefully all of you had the opportunity to view the video that we have on the Sun City webpage that talked a little bit about where we started back in February with the budget, and based on what we find ourselves in now, what we kind of looked at as far as kind of budget reductions. There are a couple of projects related to golf that we did throw in the delete file. Be more than happy to talk about those and then answer any questions that you might have. I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to throw it back to you, Tim, and any comments or questions relative to the presentation or the budget.
I guess the primary point that I'd like to make up is I saw, and I understand the reason why you need to cut back on the capital budget. The only part of that I was particularly concerned about was taking out, fixing the seawall on Pebblebrook 18. Because if there's anything that needs to be done to that course to affect playability, it's that. And I guess the other question that I had that I wasn't on here, but I'm assuming it stayed in the budget, was the driving range at Pebblebrook, and so that's one.
I'm going to pass this over to Todd. The driving range at Pebblebrook is in this year's budget, and we are moving forward with that.
Okay. And the second thing was the seawall on number 8.
Yeah.
Same thing?
Is that going to continue in?
Yes, it is. Hi, Tim. This is Todd. Those projects are in the current budget, the driving range tee leveling at Pebblebrook and the shoreline repair on the green complex on number 8 at Pebblebrook. Those are already funded and approved, so those are going to go ahead shortly after May 26th when we close Pebblebrook down. We did take out the shoreline repair on 18, the bunker renovation over at Desert Trails, and then the putting green leveling at Pebblebrook. Those were removed from the budget. I don't think it's going to hurt us if we push those out 1 year. I know you had some concern about the repair of the shoreline over on 18 at Pebblebrook. There's some things that we could do over there to kind of, like a better word, Band-Aid to get us through a year. So I don't think it's critical that we do that project. It would be nice to do, but I think we could definitely push that out a year and we'll be fine.
Well, I know that you had expanded the plan to include the whole shoreline for that lake between 10 and 18. And to me, the critical part of that project was behind the green on 18, to do the fix like you did on Trail Ridge 17.
Yes.
Because that shoreline has come in, and it's hard to keep a ball from going in the water if you land on the back third of that green.
And you know, there's what we could do, but I need to get with Bill and Pete on this. If we didn't do the shoreline repair on number 8 Green Complex, that's not real critical. We have a block wall right there as it is. It does need a little bit of repair, which maybe we could do in-house again to get us through another year. If it's possible, I can talk to Pete and Bill about this. If we take that money, that $131,000 that was budgeted for number 8, and we just transfer and do the project behind the green on 18, and then we complete that whole shoreline project the following year. But I think as far as playability goes, that would definitely be a big plus over there behind the green.
I agree, and I would certainly urge, at least from my standpoint, we can have some of the other committee members chime in, but from my standpoint, that would really help improve playability of 18.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that $131,000 that would go a long ways to putting some type of a block wall behind that green and building that up a little bit, similar to what we did on 17 and Trail Ridge.
This is Pete. Being Mr. Obvious here a little bit, but that would require any transition of approved capital to a different function. Still would require facts and finding. With you guys' support, I think it would carry the day rather easily.
Pete, the money that's for the shoreline at 8, that's already in this year's budget, the 19-20 budget?
That's what I'm referencing as if you proposed what Todd's saying and moved it to 18. Well, on the surface, it seems doable. It does not how our policy reads. We'd have to get a fact and finding approved. But if your committee had such a support for that, I think it'd be probably approved in quick order. That's my opinion.
Okay. Well, let me ask some of the committee members if they have any comments. So let us know who it is and give me your comments, please.
Well, I'll go first, Steve Booker.
Hey, Steve.
My question was really on Desert Trail's bunker project. Are we ready for that one, or are we still talking about the shoreline projects?
We're still talking about the shoreline project. The bunker project is slated to continue. Is that what you meant?
No, it shows here as deleted. Desert Trail's bunker project, deletions involved.
Yeah. All right. Sorry, I was on the wrong page. Yeah, it is.
So the question I had was, I thought that was an in-house project with labor of our own, and so how would we save $290?
Todd again. You're right, that is an in-house project, so there is a big savings by doing that. The cost is really the sand and the drainage material to do that. What I'm proposing to do is push that project out a year, and then get a little bit of sand just to rework the greenside bunkers, again, just to carry us over for a year. And we could fund that. It's a small amount, but we could fund that through the operating budget in Desert Trails. And so that's what I'm proposing to do. And we wouldn't do anything with the fairway bunkers. I think we could rework them a little bit with the existing sand there, but we'd concentrate on the greenside bunkers. And again, I think we get a little bit of new sand in, not much, maybe about $20,000 worth, just to cap those off and just to refreshen those bunkers up a little bit. And that would be enough to carry us out to the next year.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
This is Jeff Taylor.
Hey, Jeff.
I think it's a good idea to make the change and try and fund the shoreline behind the 18th on Pebblebrook. I think will really help playability.
we were talking before, earlier, that money is already available. So when we close on May 26th to do the driving range project, we can also start that shoreline behind number 18 Green shortly after that, instead of waiting until after July 1st with the new budget. So we have money that's set aside and it's ready to go. So those projects could all be done probably during the month of June.
Hey, Tim, Pat
Okay.
Kenneman.
Yeah, Pat.
I don't actually play at Pebblebrook, but a lot of the people I talk to, that is for Men's Day on Wednesday, a lot of the people I talk to that play Pebblebrook would agree that switching from 8 to 18 would be more than beneficial.
Okay. Anybody have a contrary comment to that? All right, by not hearing any comments, I'm going to take that as a consensus that we would recommend changing the projects from the 8 seawall to the lake wall on 18. Any objections from the committee?
So you've reached informal consensus, this is Karen, so you've reached informal consensus, which is fine to go ahead and make that shift, which, am I understanding correctly, is going to involve a facts and findings?
Yes, you just
Okay.
got the ball rolling. We are a little bit on time crunch for when does the governing board meet, but behind the scenes, starting today, Pete will initiate a facts and findings for the next governing board to propose shifting those funds from their intended purpose over to the 18.
18 from 8.
Yes. If I get approval, Todd can initiate that before the year end, and I support that as well.
So I'm understanding, Tim, that there was no objection among your committee, am I correct?
I did not hear any, Karen.
Thank you. Good.
Okay, just one question for Todd. Is the money that was allocated for number 8, is that enough to do what you want to do on the back of 18?
Yeah, I think that's gonna be plenty, for that section. That should be more than enough. And even if we have to, that's an outsourced project. And even if we have to do a little bit of, work, with our own staff, we can certainly do that to keep it under that 131,000.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Looking over the other changes, I didn't really have, I mean, they would be nice to have, but my main objection was 18 at Pebblebrook. I really think that was what needed the most attention. Let me ask anybody else from the committee if they have any other questions or comments about the rest of the budget.
Tim, this is Dave Hunter.
Hey, Dave.
The parking lot at Pebblebrook's on there for $187,000. Is that something else we could look at for extra money? Does that have to be done in this budget? Just talking about getting the shoreline job done.
This is Pete Finelli. We relieved Carl from this because he didn't really anticipate being golf related. But I almost assure you, I've talked to him a bunch of the times. I'm almost certain he brought up safety concerns, and the mill work on that is deteriorated pretty badly. But I will be glad to have him get an answer to you.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out to possibly get some more funds just to complete that shoreline project on 18. But we'll go with whatever you come up with.
Guys, a really important concept here for a second. It's something we discussed at all the other committees. I'm being kind of obvious here, but when you have an item that's new and you delete it, that goes right to the bottom line of a reserve fund savings. It could come up a year from now and get approved, but that for the next year, it's off the books. When you have an R&R, i.e. these asphalt Pebblebrook, from a reserve standpoint, 187 grand is the established price right now. From a reserve standpoint, if I kick it to 21, 22, against all 1,200 line items on the reserve study, it applies a inflation factor to it. And so that 187 will now be 195 or something like that. And so delaying it might be the right thing from a current year concept, but for savings against the reserve funds, it just doesn't work that way. And so now you can make your own argument whether you think the price will come down or up in this environment a year from now. That's, every one of us are going to have our own opinion on that. But the reserve study, anything R&R, not just the asphalt here, but the maintenance equipment, the vehicles, all of those are just going to get an inflated price of anything you decide to defer out of here. And that certainly is within your right to recommend that. It's my understanding though the governing board has the ultimate approval.
Okay, fine, fair enough. I'm just looking for more money to get it done sooner.
Well, David, it's a matter of what pocket the money comes out of. I mean, we've got the reserve study, which, tells us how much money we need to spend in what year to repair and replace various items, parking lot being one, as opposed to new items like the ones we added about the shorelines and the bunkers, that sort of thing. They're not covered by the R&R reserve study. So it's just a different category of accounting, really.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, I like the idea of transferring the number 8 money over to number 18 as far as it'll go.
Okay.
Tim, this is Bill.
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch base on the slide, I think that's on your screen in front of you, relative to some of these proposed revisions related to golf. In some recent conversations with Todd, as we move forward relative to the driving range improvements on the driving range tees at Pebblebrook, having the contractor on site mobilized and moving some earth around and some turf, there's some real cost efficiencies in moving forward with getting the Pebblebrook putting green done. So the $90,000 that we're recommending taking out, we kind of like to have the board maybe discuss that, or the committee discuss that a little bit as far as efficiencies go, and maybe sliding that back in for next year as far as we assemble this budget that we're bringing forward to the governing board at the workshop. That project kind of, in speaking with Todd, it makes a lot of sense maybe to keep that one in.
Todd, can you tell us how much it would be to do the driving range and then do the putting green separately, and how much it would be if we combine the two?
I don't think it's going to change the overall cost of the project, either project. I was just thinking that if we generate any extra material from the range T, which we might, we could use that in the putting green project, or vice versa. If we have some extra material from the putting green over there, we can use that on the range T. That's kind of what my thinking was, that we do it all as one project, really, that whole complex, so it becomes a practice area improvement.
Well, that is the most severe of all of our practice putting greens, and if there's any one that needs to be done, it's that one.
Right.
Okay, but I believe the cost for the range T was $55,000, and then the putting green was at $90,000. So I don't think that cost, that's not going to change. We'll still keep the same cost in there. It just will just help us out. And again, I think we just call that one big project as a practice area project, doing the T and the practice putting green.
So how much of that is inside versus outside?
The range, well, they're both. It's kind of a mixture. We do have an outside contractor that would be coming in and doing both those projects, but we would help out if we have to, move dirt around. We could possibly do the irrigation. We've done that before on some of these projects. So it would be a mixture of both the outside contractor and our own staff doing that project. Okay, and then of course, the more that we do as far as in-house, that would be a savings on the overall project cost.
Okay, how about some comments from the rest of the committee?
Well, this is Steve. I certainly believe that it is a practice area improvement, capital improvement, so you can lump them into one project. I think that's the right thing to do.
Okay?
Pat here, as long as the money, this Pat,
Yeah.
as long as the money was allocated at one time, it hasn't officially been deleted yet, so it shouldn't be too hard to keep it in there, I wouldn't think.
Right.
Well, let me get clarification. Let me get clarification on that. The driving range money was allocated already, isn't that right?
Current year.
Yes, yeah, it's in the current budget right now.
So the new money would be the portion of the work on the putting green.
That's right. Yeah, that's a new project that was scheduled for the new budget coming up in July.
Okay.
So, I mean, it
Anybody
was proposed already, so you could just keep it in there.
So is there anybody on the committee that has the contrary opinion that think we should go ahead and take it out and put it in next year's budget or somewhere further on down the road? So then, by no comments, I assume that I shouldn't assume, but I'm going to take it as a consensus that we all think that should remain in the budget. Is that true? Anyone have a contrary opinion of that? Okay. Bill, I would think the committee is going to recommend to the board that we keep that in the budget.
Okay, I will make that change in these presentations as we move forward to the workshop. And so that will be reflected, that will be removed from the deletion and we'll insert it appropriately.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, this is Steve Booker. Are you going to change the name of that project?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
And we'll give complete disclosure on that. But it just makes sense.
Okay. Anyone else on the committee have any comments about what we've covered or comments in general?
Tim,
This
it's
is
Steve
Tom.
Benzel.
Yeah, Steve.
In the delay column under golf, there's a $35,000 line item. Are those funds that are apparently non-discretional able to be utilized in any of the projects we're talking about?
Yeah, that's a good question. Todd or Pete, could you tell us what's included in that $35,000?
Sure. Keep the scope of this thing elevated so we're not nickel and diming everything. We only identified for your perusal 50,000 and above within the schedule, the presentation that Bill did and Carl did a few days ago. The others, to my recollection, was the removal of some roofing or some PA systems. Primarily because we were still evaluating whether they even met the criteria of capital after some price proposals came in. Sadly, with the COVID, Pat's having some difficulties in getting some of those people to get out and get quotes. I'm almost certain that was the PA system.
That's 7, of course.
Well, wouldn't that be in the R&R budget?
You'd like to believe that, but the PA systems, when I arrived here, Tim, were not in there.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Maggie, do you have any comments? I'm sorry, Margie. I wrote your name down wrong.
Tim, this is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Question is on the Grandview turf reduction and irrigation. That's going in the 2021 budget. When is the actual work going to start and be performed on that? Because that course is not being closed this coming year, or this coming season.
Okay, that would be summer of next year, summer of 2021.
Okay. So next summer is when they're going to start close Grandview.
I thought it was on that cycle to be closed.
Right, it was to be closed, but that we're talking about. Actually, we've been kind of going back and forth on that project with the irrigation and turf reduction project at Grandview. Kind of at this point, proposing to do that project in the summer of 2022. That would give us time to work things out with ADWR. There's some confusion with the state right now of how much we're going to have to reduce. So that would give us a little bit of time to get a handle on that and figure out how much acreage we need to reduce. Right now, as it stands, we're looking at removing about 41 acres at Grandview and converting over to desert landscape. Now that cost that we have in there, that $4.8 million, we'll still continue to keep that in there. And I think regardless of how much turf we're going to remove, it's still we're going to have that cost of the $4.8 million because we definitely have to do the irrigation project. That's for sure that we have to continue with that project. The question right now is how much turf are we going to need to reduce to meet the requirements of the state? And I'm working on that right now, and I'm hoping within the next few months I'll have a better understanding of what we're required to do.
Tim, could I interject there?
Yeah.
Todd said everything perfectly fine, but just to be clear, such a move as he proposed would eliminate it from this next year and would put it on for the cycle of the 21-22 budget. But as I referenced earlier, we don't know in this environment, but the system would add 3 to 5% more to that cost by delays. It's just addressing what I think some people in other committees and what you're discussing even today is what is the impetus for getting it done. In BNF, some of the questions came up of would there be sizable savings by moving forward with the DTUR? The answer to that is probably not, because the water is actually minimal cost because of some great efforts that were done in the past. The pumps are probably still going to run almost as heavily for 120 acres as for 160. Seed is not really a big cost. Actually, Todd said you might see a little bit of increase in cost because the natural turf or the deturfed desert landscape is actually a higher cost to maintain with pre-emergence and things like that. So the question kind of comes back to, are you guys of any kind of impetus of saying, we've got to have that in 21 of summer of next year? If the answer is no, for the purposes of no cost increases and also give us time to understand the ADWR requirements, there is a little nudge of saying, do we want to remove that from next year? Open for discussion.
I'll give you my opinion and we'll ask for some comments. We know it's going to have to happen, and we know it's going to be a fairly big number. Even though it's not going to happen until the fiscal year after the one we're budgeting, I think it would be a good idea if we split the cost between next year's budget and the budget after that. I mean, that would knock it down to, $2 million a year, which puts money in the bank to help defray the additional cost. Plus, it kind of lessens the pain in both years.
Tim, great idea, but awesome idea. Question though, you probably are acutely aware of this next comment, but when you go out for bids, you have to kind of get the whole project, and going to any kind of deturfing and saying, hey, I'll get you 2.5 million this year, and it would actually, I'm not absolutely sure the benefit would be worth the squeeze, if that makes sense. Either you kind of get it done in this year or you don't. You're still encumbering, you're almost forcing it to happen, so why go to that length? I may be wrong on that.
Well, is the funds for this going to come out of the reserve study, or is it going to come out of what we think may be excesses.
No, very good point. Bill actually asked me that question, and he said, will that actually change the outcome of for all those that aren't, most of you have seen some of our presentations of where we stand on the cash in the bank for the reserve funds against our future funding. Think about this next comment though. If 5 million, yes, Tim, all of the fundings for our irrigations are in the reserve study, all of them. This one of 5 million is sitting front and center for our budget approval. If you guys struck it from the capital from this next year and said, wait a year, then the funding at the bottom, meaning our fully funded, would not be declining by 5 million like was anticipated. It would just move up by 3% for next year. So keep that real simple. Funds on the numerator not spent are still blank amount, so I say 25 million. But the future funding at 50 million isn't going to go down either. So you just kind of move the needle, and if it just delays it and gets you some time to evaluate, from my perspective, it's more, do we want time to get the clarity from the AWDR? Do we even need to be doing this? Are we grandfathered in? And we don't know that because of the COVID has shut down all of our answers, or we're getting conflicting answers. The cost of running these repairs might be frustrating for Todd, but they're not overwhelmingly staggering operational costs. I mean, if I was running 100 grand on fixing the pipes, main lines every other month or annually, 100 grand into $5 million spend as a quick return, but we're not. And so it's more of a question of, are we trying to get this done, get ahead of it, or should we maybe take a breather? But I will say it again, it will not change the reserve percentages. They move parallel to each other.
Okay. I understand that. Do we have the plans already, Todd, of what of the scope of work that we're going to do?
Yes, we do. For Grandview and also Echo Mesa, we had plans drawn up about 2 years ago for Echo Mesa of all the areas on the golf course that we could remove turf and convert over to desert landscape. So I have 2 plans actually for Grandview. One, first plan is about 60 acres of turf removed, and then we scaled that back to about 41 acres. And then I put my own plan together a couple weeks ago, which is more in the lines of about 26 acres. So we do have the plans for both courses.
Well, I guess I'm a little confused then. If we have the plans, the question is, we're looking to put it into this year's budget, but you're not going to do the work until the summer of 2022? I'm confused.
That was his proposal only, Tim. To be crystal clear, I know this gets confusing. The 2021 budget will be starting in April or May of the 21 summer. But it won't be done until August or September of 21, and that goes into the next year. We operate with the premise that when a budget is approved, this is what kind of comes back to your comment about splitting it. When we approve an item, it can be sometimes months, even years before we actually execute on it. But the board has approved it. When it gets completed is not of consideration. And so budget approved of 5 million, if you guys go ahead, technically it can sit unencumbered for encumbrance, it can sit for even years if you decided. So from my standpoint, this is a question of whether or not some people in the room are concerned enough about the reserve funds that our fund balance goes down from 23 to 24 million down to 18. Does that spook enough people that they'd rather have the 23 in the bank, and as we stand right now, and have that need still be out there to be done at some preordained point? Or do you want to get it done and the 5 million comes out of the bank, but the reserve funds come down by 5 million? I mean, excuse me, the fully funded balance comes down by 5 million. They all move in sync together. So to
You don't
me,
actually take the money out of
there,
the investment.
that's correct. Well,
Pay for the invoice, right?
that's a good point. We never do that. We pay every invoice out of operating. I don't want to get into that, but, because it's kind of complex. The 5-second version of your statement though is, if you spent 11 million and only had 6 million come in through APS and operating and dividends, that $5 million at the end of the year is transferred out of the reserve funds and pays back the operating account. That's when the transfer occurs. So it's just a question of put it on the books and approve it, and Bill and Todd will evaluate AWRP until you get a clarity. And so personally, I'd probably say keep it in there and then evaluate it. And if it just never comes to pass on June 30th of 2021, if it doesn't come to pass on June 30th of 2022, by our own policies, we just keep encumbering it over. But if there are certain people in some committees to date that have said, do we really want to absolutely commit to that $5 million spend in this environment right now? Again, going back to having the money in the bank and then making the decision. I understand and respect that. Todd's offering up that he probably thinks that 2022 would still meet the guidelines of getting it done before Plan 4 is in effect. So some would argue, why not wait? And I think some would argue that a $5 million budget remaining after all this would probably meet with pretty quick board approval, but that's just my opinion. And you might even be able to address your putting green thing with a little less hesitation. And quite bluntly, between you, me, and the wall, between you, me, and the wall, I don't think we really know. There's 10 million people out of work just in the last month. And we don't know what this excess amount of labor is going to do. Are they going to shift into other capacities? Could we suddenly, all of a sudden, see landscape positions that have been empty for years suddenly get applications aplenty? What about the contractors for this $5 million project? Perhaps they bid it out at, a much lower rate a year from now. So, it's up for discussion and,
Well, let me give you my opinion, and we'll open it up for comments. My opinion is that without the COVID-19, this was well thought of and a done deal. It just needed to be budgeted in the budget. By budgeting it, I think what it does do is when you go talk to the state to say, hey, look, we're ready to do it, tell us what we really need to do. I think that's a good marketing shit to have when you talk to the state. You never really have to spend the money until you actually do the project. So my opinion would be keep it in the budget and talk to the state. And if we have to adapt the plans at some future date, you're ready to do it versus having to go through this all over again and trying to get it approved.
Totally agree.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, this is Todd again. Just to give you a quick update on where we're at with the state ADWR. I've had several meetings with them over the past couple months, and there was some confusion of how we fit into the regulations that they're going to impose in 2023 and the big one in 2025. I'm getting some indication that we are actually grandfathered in, so those restrictions don't apply to us. I'm still getting some information and meeting with them to make sure that is true. So with that, moving that project out to another year will give us time to get that information and get set so that when we do that project at Grandview, it will be geared towards the 2025 management plan of reduction. And so I would rather not take out any more grass than what we have to. Now we have to do the irrigation project, we know that for sure. And what I'd like to do, and I'd mentioned the 26 acres, I think there's an opportunity to take out some grass over there at Grandview. That's going to help cut down a little bit of maintenance And I refer to those areas as low impact. It would have a very low impact to the homeowners and also to the golf course, or the golfers, as far as playability goes. So I think by pushing that out a year will give us time to get everything in order and get a clear understanding of what the state is going to require us to do.
Now, Todd, just to be clear, you're talking about the de-turfing project, pushing that out a year?
Yeah, that would all be
Lowering it.
Yeah, the whole project, that 4.8 million includes turf removal and new irrigation, so that would be all one project. I wouldn't want to do irrigation and then come back in and do the turf removal. I'd like to do it all at one time.
Pete Finelli being Mr. August here, but on the slide that's up on the screen, you can see that it's 42,000 per acre. If he were to remove that versus 25 for irrigation, if he drops that 17 grand variance for each acre, that 4.8 million dropped by probably 15 times 15. So, gone blank all of a sudden, but maybe 200,000.
Right, there would be some savings because the irrigation system per acre is less than turf removal. So there would be some savings if you're not taking turf out, so.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, when we looked at this project in the past, it was a have to do at some point, but it was being pushed because of the mandate that we were being told at the time by the state. Okay, so if the situation has changed to where, yes, we still need to do it sometime, but we're not sure we're going to be pushed by the state to comply with the 2023, but maybe the 2025, then I would say, yeah, it probably makes sense to push it out to the next fiscal year.
All right, agreed.
All right, how about some comments from the rest of the committee? Steve?
Well, I guess the question then becomes, is Grandview not going to be shut down for the summer next year?
Yeah, we're going to have to go back and do some rescheduling on course closures based on what we're doing this year with the budget and the project. So I'll have that ready to go probably by next week sometime. I'll present a new closure plan for the 5 years.
One other question for you, Todd. Did you say earlier that we were grandfathered through 2023, but not 2025?
Yeah, that's the big question right now. The fourth management plan has a reduction of 4.9 acre feet per acre to 475, and I think we're going to be fine with that. We'll have to make some adjustments, but nothing real big. It's the 2025 plan. If they go through with that, it reduces you down to 90 acres of irrigated turf per golf course. That's the one. That's the big one. That's why we are going to have to remove a lot of turf. But they have made indications in the last 2 meetings that I've had that we are grandfathered in, that this really does not apply to us. And I'm still trying to get confirmation on that, and I'll continue to do that, and hopefully that is true. But we're just going to have to wait and see.
Is there any possibility that grandfather could be changed based upon an election that's coming up in November?
I can't answer.
Can't answer that, and this is Bill. We obviously at our mid-year meeting we had representatives from Department of Water Resources come out and talk to us about this situation. And as we compiled our year-end water results, and Todd went down to visit with them, met with another agent, and got a little bit of conflicting message. And so we are in the process, or we're in the process of trying to get that confirmed with an attorney, as well as getting me something in writing so we can have that with our water rights that we have documented. But due to the COVID-19 and people working from home and that type of thing, it's nearly impossible to get anybody at Water Resources to answer the phone. So we're kind of stuck at the moment, unfortunately, because I was hoping to have all this resolved at the time that we're putting these budget presentations together, but unfortunately it's not there, and timing is a bit of a problem.
This is Pat. I do golf at
Go ahead.
Grandview and do represent the membership there. I would personally say that the project should, after understanding all the requirements, wait until that's all done. It could take us beyond 2025, so you're good for another 10 years or whatever. That'd be what I would suggest.
Okay. David Hunter, you have any comments on this?
Yeah, a couple. I see no problem with deferring this Grandview project because there's just too many unknowns there. I hear a lot of questions, and we don't have the answers yet. So there's no big deal with pushing that out in the future a little ways. And it looks like, Todd, if there is a significant amount of turf removal involved, that's going to impact your irrigation design, will it not?
Yeah, you're right, Dave. We're going to have to take that into consideration. But again, we're going to be doing we want to do the project, the irrigation replacement and turf removal all at the same time.
Sure. And Grandview is selected mostly because of the age of that system ahead of the other wall-to-wall golf courses.
Yeah, and plus we seem to have we're experiencing more repairs over there on the system, not so much on the main line, but the laterals and some of the swing joints on the heads. So that was an indicator that might be a golf course that we want to go after first in terms of irrigation replacement.
Okay, one more thing. Grandview, whatever we do at Grandview, will that satisfy or do you think it would satisfy the ADWR's requirements for the fourth management plan, and the other courses would be deferred somewhere down the line? I don't know when we could do the other courses.
If we were to do that for the fourth management plan, which rolls out in the year 2023, if we were to make those changes over at Grandview, I'm confident that would put us in, we'd be okay with that 4.75 acre feet per acre reduction. In fact, we're really close right now with that. So any turf that we remove, it just gets us closer to that. The one good thing that ADWR is allowing us to do is to combine all of our golf courses as one. So that's going to be a big help as well. So when we do take some turf out at Grandview, whether it's 26 acres or 41 acres, it's going to put us within that range of that 4.75 acre feet. And again, the big concern right now is that 2025 plan when that rolls out, and we don't know how that's going to affect us. Are we safe from that? Or are we going to have to go down to 90 acres of irrigated turf per golf course, which would affect the 4 golf courses, the Stardust, Echo Mesa, Grandview, and Pebblebrook.
Well, that's a good move to allow that one course to cover all 7.
Yeah, that really gives us a lot of flexibility to do this project.
So this is Steve Booker, just a process check. We've only got 10 minutes left, or less than 10 minutes. And we haven't even talked about the rates or anything. Are we planning on doing that?
Yes.
Okay, we apparently can run a little over now. Should the lines all cut out, we'll reestablish the meeting, okay? So we're just gonna keep going, but we probably need to watch time a bit. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna do a quick roll call, and we just want a voice yes or no to delay the deturfing and irrigation system at Grandview. So Steve Booker?
Delay.
David?
Yeah, I agree. Delay.
Okay, Steve Stenzel.
Delay.
Okay, Jeff Taylor.
Delay.
Okay, Margie.
Delay.
Okay, Pat.
Delay.
Okay, Patty. Hit the mute button, Patty. All right, Tom Wogemuth. Well, Patty's trying to find the mute button.
Delay.
Okay. We find Patty again? Okay. Well, that's, unless Patty tells me differently, we're going to consider that a unanimous consensus that we recommend to the governing board to delay the proposed irrigation replacement at Grandview Golf Course until the next fiscal year. Let me ask Pete and Bill this. By taking that $4.8 million out of the budget, the capital budget, does that free up money for some of the other projects that were deferred?
It's a perception thing only. As I was mentioning, it's still going to be out there to need to be funded, but the question of 5.0 million is now on the low end of recent years. So my instinct is they'd probably be more receptive
Can
to
you go back to the
reinstating
deleted project slide?
Okay. Did any of the other committees say that they wanted to reinstate certain projects?
We talked about reinstating the putting green, obviously.
I'm talking about outside of golf.
Oh,
Go to the rec center one, right there, that blue. There was some, of course, some boomers that wanted to have their chartered space maybe still, but it didn't catch a lot of traction in my mind. Shuffleboard got a little bit, but not much. Mini golf was asked, do we save a lot of money by fixing it? And the answer is no. And actually, we didn't discuss any other ones other than that.
Okay. All right. Let's quickly go to rates.
Jim, Steve Senzel, to follow up with what you just said.
Yeah.
Why don't we just ask for it to all of the golf projects to be reinstated?
That would be the, well, we reinstated the wall on 18, so that would be reinstating the repair to the wall in number 8. And
also the Desert Trail bunker.
The Desert Trail bunker.
Under the,
Absolutely. Just to bring some clarity, lake shorelines are in the R&R. And so you guys' decision to potentially defer or change the scope of that will bring some savings, okay? That's real money. Putting green is considered new. Desert Trails bunker is considered new. So in this age of some uncertainty of the capital overall funding, at BNF and in the previous committee, some people were proposing to reevaluate all new with a very skeptical eye. And I would just argue that the bunker project and the putting green have to pass that smell test of, does it meet the criteria in this uncertain time right now to warrant moving ahead? The lake shoreline is a lot different than that.
but if it is, Tim, this is Bill. If it's the committee's desire to reinstate these with the delay of the 4.8, we can certainly do that.
Well, I mean, it seems like we took a big chunk out of the capital budget for you, and yes, it is new, but it was money that was going to have to be spent. The Desert Trails bunker project, that's the last one to be done, and that is probably the one that has needed it the most as we go along. So I would just like to ask the committee if there's anybody that would recommend that we put the bunker project back in.
Yeah, this is Steve. I would say yes.
Okay.
This is Jeff Taylor. I would say yes also.
Okay.
Tom Wogan, yes.
Okay.
Margie Zener, yes.
Okay.
Senzel,
Pat,
I'm
did I
in.
hear you? Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Well,
Pat
that's
here, yes.
majority, so, okay, thank you. That's majority, so the committee would has a consensus to recommend that we put that bunker project back into the capital budget.
Dave Hunter. Hey, we don't have enough money, or do we have enough money to reinstate the entire project there at hole number 18, that entire shoreline? or is it just half of it?
I would say that we put them all back in.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Let's just
I
do
mean,
them all.
because
They had merit to start with, so they should still be good projects.
right. I mean, the reason we're doing the shoreline not only is for playability behind the green is that shoreline is probably eroded out 6 to 8, maybe 10 feet. I mean, so basically we're reclaiming the lake back to its original boundaries and putting in a wall to cut down on seepage and erosion and all those other good things.
Okay, quick clarity. Earlier you voted on moving the dollars over to take care of that. Timing is everything on this. The budget for 2021 won't be approved till end of May. And so I think we can still, if that was somehow declined by your reinstating it by the governing board, then we will take the facts and findings and try to move it over from the current year. With your blessing, that's what I will do, and not present that fact and findings, because on the surface, I'm going after monies that you guys are proposing to stay in there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as long as there's time after the board looks at the budget to do a fact and finding and include it. Basically, that would just be a transfer of money. I would have the fact and finding available so that if for some reason the board does turn it down, that we can immediately go to the facts.
Bill believes that we'll have an answer, a general consensus coming out of the workshop. So I think we'll know.
But the committee is now, there's a consensus to reinstate all of them. Am I understanding that from this committee?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, with no dissension, no objection.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have not heard it.
Thanks.
All right, Katie, you can jump to fees now.
Okay.
Let's go to fees. Everybody has looked over the fee schedule.
And Tim, you're going to get a motion going for discussion, right? You saw my email.
Are you talking to me, Karen?
Yes, I am. Sorry, Tim. Yes. Tim Hurley, sorry.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
So Tim, I think you've had sidebars maybe with your staff. But this course had a pretty significant change from the one at the 2/8 of the February committee. If you look down the bottom left of what's up on the screen, unlimited, of course, is not subjected to fee increase. So we gave them a $200 increase approximately. The Kachina cards, Coyotes play cards are all the same. So all the increases are coming off of the upper sections above on resident and round type. And then a little bit down the bottom right on range ball key. Those are our changes and it did differ from what we presented earlier.
Well, I'm seeing annual unlimited cards at $33.50.
Yes, that's up from about approximately $200 to give them a 6 to 8 or 10% hike off of the current run rate.
Right.
So Tim and everyone, this is Pat. How's everybody doing? It's all the big, if you want to call them big jumps, are in the November to April, and then as we get further away from the peak season, there's smaller increases. So the pink color that you see, most of those are dollar increases, with the exception of October, November through April and May, and a lot of those are $2 increases. As Pete mentioned, 2 increases in cards, unlimited, $225 increase, which is an 8% increase. And that's because there's no dollars collected at the counter, while the other cards you are collecting at the counter. And then the Twilight card going up $50 or 5% for an annual. We talked about golf carts going up. We pulled that out. We're going to keep the carts, or we're proposing that the carts stay the same, and then range balls going from $90 to $99.
This is Dave Hunter.
Go ahead,
Pat.
David.
Yeah, Pat, thanks for the email. We've been going back and forth on the range ball key price, and I've been pushing to just keep it the same, and I want to make another pitch. I don't know where the $90 is for the $120 worth of balls. I don't know where that came from exactly. That was a 25% reduction, which I think is a great deal. And I think when we offered that discount to our golfers, that we should just hang on to that discount instead of increasing it. I don't feel like it's subject to a bunch of overhead extra costs or anything like that. So I'm still trying to get my head around why it needs to go up 10%. It's just it's a nice discount, and I'd like to see us hang on to it, Pat.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
This is Jeff Taylor. I would concur with that. How much money would the actual increase generate?
10% increase, $6,000.
Is that important?
Covers my ball picker
And my bonus.
and Bill's bonus, he said. You know, how that price came about was, for those that remember the dollar bucket, since we do take dollar bills, my only other choice is to go up to the next level, which is $2. I can't put 50 cents in the machine. And in doing so, one of the thoughts was just to charge $2 and give everybody 20 balls, actually double the price of the range ball pricing. And I didn't feel that was quite right because there should be some middle ground there. So we actually gave more balls, went to 30 balls for $2. So that cut that amount in half, 50 cents. And then we gave a discount for those that bought the key, which was another 50% off. So basically, people that buy the keys are buying a $2 bucket for $1.50 all the way through. It's been very popular, but we haven't had a price increase since 2016. And again, we keep beating this up, but we've had 3 or 4 minimum wage increases since then. My range ball prices have gone up slightly. So I still think at $99, it's a great deal. I think we'll sell a bunch, but again, I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, Dave Hunter again. I still like to just keep the discount the way it always has been at $90. I think other operations are just going to have to be covered some other way. I mean, the cost of the range balls and things like that. Taking away something we've always enjoyed, and it's bottom line, it's going to cost me a lot more money. So I'm sure we could figure out a way to pay the help, the extra money, because we've increased all your rates for everything else just about. So let those take care of it and keep the residents happy with the $90 deal.
Hey, Pat, this is Steve Booker. At our last meeting, we talked about the increase, the percentage of increase on the Kachina card and the Coyote card and the increase in the unlimited, those percentages not being equal. Are they now? Obviously, the Kachina card hasn't gone up, but the price of golf has. So based upon a calculation, is it approximately the same increase for each of the cards?
Right, Steve. One of our early proposals was that we were looking at increasing annual Kachina Coyote card rates, and this proposal has us leaving those alone. and then increasing the charge at the counter, especially during November through April. We didn't want to double dip everybody that bought those cards. And, but one of the things that we tried to do, and this is to keep that percentage differential between the Kachina and the Coyote and the resident rate, there's 25% roughly differential between that. And when we're working with dollars like this, we got to either round up or round down, and that's how this came about.
Okay.
So we tried to keep that philosophy intact, yes.
Okay. So, and the limited card went up, what did we say, about 8%?
It did, $225, 8%.
Okay.
Pat, this is Tim. Describe to me a little bit on how these rates changed between the last meeting that we all had and this.
So, okay, so the original proposal was trying to take advantage of the November, April, and really focus on increases there. High demand, high opportunity to increase fees. With that said, some suggestions were made to try to incorporate the whole 12 months. And that's how the dollar changes on the exterior of this bell curve, if you will, were added into that. So a couple things, going back to Steve's comment, by changing things $1, $2, and in some cases $4, we're trying to keep that 25% differential in between there, and that's what it ended up gravitating towards. One other comment real quick would be the 9-hole rate, and just a reminder to everybody, the reason why we're seeing a sharper increase in the 9-hole rate is that rate is higher during peak time to try and encourage people to play their 9 holes either early in the morning or at twilight and leave those tee times in peak time available for 18-hole play. So that's a sharp increase November through April in 9-hole rates, but you'll see it's not as high in the twilight or super twilight rate.
How did we go from for the guest and public play? How did we go up to $56 instead of what we talked about before?
One of the thoughts was increasing outside play to a higher percentage rate than our resident increase, and that's what we wanted to do. Resident rate of $36 has not been increased since 2016. We saw an opportunity to go all the way up to $39 to hopefully capture some of our financial goals. And with that, we wanted to make sure that we capitalized on the outside play. By keeping the carts at $12, that keeps us under the $70 threshold that we were kind of antsy about, if you remember. And now we're at 68. Instead of adding the 2 to the cart, 56 is what we came up with on the green fee.
Well, I hate to do this, but this is significant enough different than the last time we all got together that I want to defer this until we can have, I can go over this a little bit more so that I can understand exactly why some of these changes went on. So I think we had a firm idea of how much additional money we wanted to generate based on Pete's projections on what the minimum wage was going to do, what possible summertime, summertime working rates wages were going to be. So I would like to dive into this a little bit deeper and just understand why some of these things changed when I thought we had an agreement with what they're going to be before. So if there's no objection from the committee, I'd like to put this off so that it can be considered more, and then I will send out an email to everybody giving an explanation of what it was.
Yeah. Hey, Tim, this is Steve. I'm okay with that.
Okay.
It appears, though, as though rates, cards other than Kachina and Coyote and the balls, everything went up like 8 to 10%. Is that a fair assessment, Pat?
Anywhere from 4 to 8, yes.
So, Tim, as of this morning, up on the screen is our latest iteration of the budget for the golf division, upper left-hand corner. Yes, to answer your question, the goal was to generate a revenue increase, and this gets a little tricky because the projected and the budget are moving targets based, especially in recent times. But roughly 10% to extract out of golf fees was then driven down into almost 5.5% of that's going to flow through on labor alone. And then other components. And we did, without hesitation, say that we wanted to have, more contribution. I think we made this clear. More contribution out of the operating cash flow, the $1,073,000 that resides right now, towards some of the irrigations and things like that have cropped up with. And so I don't for a minute not say that the 10% or 8 to 10, the basis of that denominator is a moving target. But what we do know is that the rates that are in front of you at the same rounds that are being played currently would generate approximately that, just approximately $750,000 by our models. But it's not like it's just going all to the bank. We have almost $400,000 that roll in on salaries alone and other recruitment components. But there was an implicit goal to drive more dollars into the irrigation. I mean, we made that very clear.
Right. And I understand that, but if we're going to push that back, we still have the same impetus to do that.
Exactly. And so, I respect that you want to look at it. I know we had a lot of sidebars with Tim and Karen, Tim D'Angelo and Karen Woods, taking all of us, and we pushed them in, and we thought that this was the latest iteration, but certainly you're more than welcome to re-review it.
Yeah, Tim, this is Pat. Since the irrigation is going to be out, maybe we do a two-step rather than a one-step on the rate increases. It might be a little more palatable to the residents.
Well, yeah, that needs to be factored in, and I mean, when you look at, I agree that the golf rates need to go up. They haven't gone up since 2016, so they need to go up. We've had minimum wage rates that have gone up almost 50%. A lot of our golf people are minimum wage. So yeah, we do have to capture more from that. The thing that I was trying to do was what Steve Booker was referring to, in that keeping the percentage rate the same across the residents, whether they're buying cards or whether they're paying the full resident rack rate. Lean it a little bit more towards outside play, and I think that's still what we want to do. I just want to go through and put these in my model and see exactly what the impact on these are going to be. So I think we can get that done fairly quickly. I'll get a message out to the committee with what I found and ask for recommendations, and we'll send them back up to Pete and Bill and Pat.
Tim, this is Karen. So you're going to take care of all this prior to April 10 or prior to the regular meeting this month? Because the capital expenditures, you know, I just want to be sure we're on track.
April 10 being the workshop?
Workshop is April 10. Generally, the golf fees are agreed to and then discussed during the workshop in preparation for the regular meeting on the 23rd. So I'm just trying to figure out our timing on this. Because you're not going to have another golf committee meeting
No, but we can do it
via email. Perfect. Okay, fine. You'll get a consensus to me and all that. Okay, great. And then is that by the 10th, by the way, or by the 23rd?
I'm going to try to do it by the 10th.
Okay, thank you.
I'll work on it over this weekend and get the email out to everybody and let them see where we are. And Pete, I'll have to talk to you offline and see
fine.
exactly how we're going to break this down.
Sure, that's fine, Tim.
Okay.
Hey, Tim, this is Steve. Tim?
Yeah. Steve.
This is Steve. If Grandview's not going to be down for the summer, that's increased revenue. That should be factored in.
That's a good point. A lot of moving parts here. It's funny when you change one thing that 5 other things, rotate. So.
Yeah.
So addressing this is Pat, addressing the closure of the golf courses. If Grandview's open, that means another golf course will close. So.
Doesn't have to.
Well, yeah, typically we have one executive and one regulation closed during the summer. Todd will probably bring to the table just a different rotation of closures.
Yeah, so it's basically what you think is there isn't enough play in the summer to keep 4 regulation courses open.
Well, Todd's going to have to look at his maintenance schedule and
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, somebody with the dog's got to put it on mute. All right. I think we've got a recommendation for the capital budget. We're going to take a further look at these rates. I'll get back to everybody with the email probably on Monday, and we'll get a consensus and I'll forward that to Pat and Bill and Pete. Right.
And Karen.
All right, very good.
And Karen, of course. All right, quickly, are there any other comments that the committee needs to make or wants to make?
This is Jeff Taylor. Kudos to all the staff and everybody who worked to make the changes to the golf clubhouses, et cetera, to keep golf courses open and in compliance.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, we'll pass that along.
So, Mr. General Manager, are there any, what would it take for you to reconsider your plan to keep the golf courses open?
Mr. General Manager, what will it take for you to consider keeping the golf courses open? Have I captured that, Tim?
Yeah. I mean, what would have to happen for you to say, no, we're going to close them?
Well, I think shelter in place, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you.
A shelter in place order from the governor would be a major scenario, Tim, but as this thing progresses and we continue to move along, it's getting considerably worse. So, I'm not sure, honestly. Your opinion would matter tremendously as far as the golf committee and that kind of thing. We're doing our best to keep things open. But, as we see this thing progressing day in and day out, I'm afraid it's going to be a matter of time, really, before we really have to pull that switch. We've kind of had meetings with our golf teams as far as that goes. What's it going to take to close the golf course? That in and of itself is a challenge. There are so many ins and outs on these golf courses that, these things are gonna turn into public parks, and we've got some real issues as far as that goes. So daytime supervision and that type of thing is gonna have to be amped up and ramped up if we do consider closing. We hope to get compliance from people, doing the 6-foot separation scenario and everything that we've implemented. But at times, we're getting a lot of reports from residents and others that are seeing things out there on the golf course and behavior that is not really under what we would consider the recommended safety scenario. So it's a definite challenge, and it's growing every day. I get pressure all the time to close this thing, close it for the sake of everyone's safety. Please do so. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about prior to this meeting coming to an end, and get a feel from the committee as to what they feel. I mean, there's no rule book on this thing. It's really we were out ahead of the curve when we decided to close rec centers and other areas of our community that we felt were very problematic when it came to contagiousness of this thing. And here we are. We got through March, and now we're in April, and I'm like, every day is a new day, man. Kind of waiting for Governor Ducey to make a decision. I know he's getting a lot of pressure. It's on national television. I think we were on, not Sun City West, but Arizona Golf was on TMZ the other day, and somewhat getting chastised for not closing down. But there are, golf's open space. I get it. It's recreational space. If people were separate, it's okay. But, what do you want on your shoulders? I'm not sure. Long answer, I'm not sure.
Well, to me, it would be what the governor does. I mean, if he decides to close the golf courses, there's not much we could do about that. Arizona is not alone in keeping their golf courses open. In fact, Golf Digest had a thing on their website that listed state by state who had things closed and who didn't, and the majority are still open. Just because it is open, it's inherently separate and all that kind of stuff. All right, just wanted to get your opinion, Bill. See how you're thinking.
Yeah, it's really, what kind of message are we sending our citizens? I mean, they're asking us do you care? Do you not care? We do. Getting outside is important. Physical health is a serious thing, when it comes to this virus, but so is social health and so is mental health. And I think golf goes a long way to kind of accommodate some of that. But again, the safety features are what they are. I think the Wall Street Journal came out today with a recommendation from CDC that they're now recommending everybody wear masks. Like I said, there's just no dang rule book that we can follow as far as this goes. We got to make our best decisions and our best guesses as far as that goes. My wife's in the medical field. I consult with her. She's got feedback coming directly from the Banner hospitals locally as to what they're seeing and what are they getting locally around here. So we're kind of weighing as we go. And the population of Sun City West, by average, I think we average 74 years of age for the residents that live here. And if you look at the charts regarding mortality and contagiousness and whatnot, I mean, it's everybody over 65. We're that age group. And so, I'm trying to play safe. I really think closure is going to be a factor sooner than later. Again, we have been, since our last decision to kind of put all of the measures together that we did, we're somewhat of a holding pattern until Ducey decided to do something. And, I think he's speaking tonight at 6. So I'm going to watch the news tonight, see what Doug says, and roll. Because I know he's going to get beat on it because he's getting beat nationally on it.
Yeah.
This is Jeff Taylor. I think you need, going forward, we need to really emphasize and put the hammer down on making sure that you have one person per cart. I'm sitting here watching carts go by with 2 people in it, and that's not a good visual.
It isn't, but are they husband and wife? Are they sharing the same automobile getting there? and then we have to separate them at the golf course. I mean, there's tactical issues that we got to deal with.
I'm seeing two individuals of the same sex going by.
Right.
Oh, maybe they're brothers, they're living together.
Right? Those are the kind of issues that we've got. We talked about potentially eliminating clubs or group play to cut down the need for people to gather. We're looking at just sending people out in twosomes instead of foursomes. Where are we going to go? As we continue to sit here and write this thing, the governor can come in at any moment and sweep and pull the rug out from under us. It's just, we don't know. And we're just trying to be as safe as we know how. And again, we're not forcing anyone to golf. We're allowing them to do that. And they are, we need adults making adult decisions. And based on your health and based on, any kind of precondition that you may or may not have, that weighs on everybody's decision. It weighs on me when I decide, do I got to go to Costco, or do I got to go to a grocery store right now, or can I wait and go closer to the middle of the night and hopefully avoid crowds? So.
Well, Bill, I think from the groups that I play with, everyone's taking it seriously. I think everybody, they've quit shaking hands, they've quit exchanging money.
Right.
I know my group doesn't stay around and socialize after the event. Everybody kind of goes and leaves, and I think everybody's taking the suggestions / mandates that you put out seriously. So I really think people are doing what they can to keep social distancing and contact and all that.
Yeah, and that's critical, Tim. I think the feedback that we're getting, and Katie's letting me know on a daily basis what she's communicating with the local fire folks. I think taking a preemptive stance as we did, I think in the long term, I'm hoping saved lives. It made a difference, with early closures and that type of thing. So, really the last of the Mohegans out here, as far as us and social distancing, is golf. And so ultimately, somebody's got to make that call. And it's not an easy one.
Well, no, it won't. And I'm sure you'll get support whichever way you decide to go, Bill, but let's hope it doesn't get to that.
Right. Well, stay safe.
I think unless anybody else has a comment, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. So,
Including the guests, any guest comments, like the board members online?
okay. Any guest comments?
We're good.
Okay. All right. The meeting is adjourned at 3 o'clock.